When you sit down to make music, do you feel like your stuff sounds like every other producer out there? Are you struggling to figure out how to make your track sound like the pro tracks? Well, you've clicked on the right video. I'm going to be showing you some super simple techniques that if you implement them correctly in your next track, you're going to be surpassing the competition and sounding better than most bedroom producers. Make sure you stay till the end of the video because at the end, I'm going to be revealing what I believe to be one of the best tips. Do it in your next track. It's going to sound phenomenally better, and it's going to be a great bit of music. So why does your track sound the same as everyone else's? Well, genre doesn't actually matter here. I'm not talking genre-specific music. I'm just saying generally. There's a lot of fundamental reasons as to why that could be, and here are some of the big examples. There's no separation in the sounds and the music you're using. There's no control over the sounds that are being produced, and it's all a bit sort of thrown together, quick loops, splice loops, bang it in and see what happens. This is a great way for getting ideas and starting to build out a track. What you need to do is separate yourself because everybody's doing that. So you've got to add a few things that are going to make it sound more professional and built up. So one of the key things that I've seen so many people not doing is automation. Now, if you're not sure what automation is, in essence, it's basically telling the program to do things for you, turn certain dials back and forth, increase the dry and the wet to create effects, like you're DJing, but essentially you have like 15 arms and you're doing it in all these tracks. When used correctly, automation can indefinitely make your tracks better because you're able to create build-up and tension and change the sounds automatically. So you've got to start doing automation. Now, when it comes to individual sounds, what I mean is a particular cymbal you use, or a drum kit, or a bass line, anything. You need to produce those sounds. So don't just throw it on the track and leave it. You've got to add effects. Simple things like reverb can give drums so much space. Don't put reverb on your bass, bad idea. But on drums it sounds great. Reverb sounds great on pretty much everything. Use slight delays and effect racks to give a bit more space. Produce the sounds so they aren't just out of the box exactly what you put in the program. Now, a big one is muddy low end. Now, what do I mean by muddy low end? Well, basically the low end is obviously the bass. Your low hertz, below 150, 160 hertz, and muddy, meaning it's all sort of merging and clashing into one. So basically the subwoofer is just constantly on going. You want a clean low end, and the way to do that is with simple, quick, effective changes. There's two main reasons why your low end is muddy. Your bass line and your kick are clashing because they're very similar hertz. So all you need to do, don't EQ the bass because we still want the low end, you sidechain the bass away. Now, sidechaining can be a whole nother video, but essentially you duck the bass when the kick hits. The other one is regarding everything other than bass. Most instruments and things you're going to put into your program are going to have low end just because they've been produced. So what you want to do is you just want to use an EQ, sharp cut all that low end out. You don't need it. In drums, for example, you're not using a kick drum from that drum kit. You've got a different kick drum. So all you've got is cymbals, snares, toms. It's a lot of high end and mid-range stuff. So you can just cut out all that low end if there is any there, and you instantly create all that space that you didn't before. Anything you put in, put an EQ on it. See what the EQ is saying. If there's a low end that you don't need, cut it out because it will make it sound so much crisper. Moving on from muddy low end, just EQing generally is one of the greatest things you can do. One of the first things you should be implementing is as soon as you drop something into a track, put an EQ on it and mess around with the EQ a little bit. If you've got more drums in there, but you want a particular drum kit to sit on the top, other stuff that's got cymbals in it as well, just take some of that high out, sit the cymbals back in the mix a little bit, Again, with bass, maybe you want to boost a circuit and frequency in the bass, or you want to take a bit of the sub bass out, or you just need to cut a bit of the bass out anyway because it's too heavy. Use EQs all the time. I can't stress it enough because they create the dynamics that you want. Without them, everything's just everywhere and the range is just going crazy. So throw EQs on stuff, cut some of the highs out, maybe dip it there if that particular sound is too high in the frequency, lower it down. You can also bring sounds out. Instantly, it gives you more control, and because of that control, you sound more professional. That's what we're going for. Now, this is going to sound obvious to a lot of people watching, I'm sure, but work in key. Now, this is the fundamental of music here, but please work in key because sometimes you can get away with it. Sometimes if that particular sound isn't exactly in key, it's not too bad. Vocals are the main one. Don't have your vocals in a different key to the track. Just make sure you keep everything in key. If you write the melody, you know what the key of the track is. So anything you put in, either put it in as that key or transpose it to that key. These programs nowadays, they can transpose easily. Look up a keyboard online and see how much you have to transpose it. Just these simple things can make you sound so much more professional because although it's so obvious, so many people aren't doing it. So many people don't work in key when they start producing because it's like, I haven't got any vocals, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, but that string sounds completely out of place, or the bass line is in a different key to the melody. You could even get a key on the kick. It's not really important, but some kicks do have keys. Just consider it, and with main things, definitely work in key. Anything harmonic, work in key. If you're putting vocals into a track, I'm not sort of talking about writing vocals from scratch here. If you're putting vocals into a track, make sure they're in the correct place. Now, a lot of people just grab their vocal and put it on the first beat at the bar and assume it's going to line up with the melody. It's not the case for vocals, right? Vocals do not act like drums. Drums, they ride the beat. They are the beat. The kick is always on the beat unless you're changing it. But, you know, they're very simple. They don't play fast and loose with the beats and the bars. Vocals do. It's very easy for the start of a vocal to actually not be on the downbeat. A downbeat just means the 1. But a vocal could easily be on, like, the 4th of the bar before. So little things like that. Use your metronome. Use your ear. Because instantly you'll hear if it's out of time. If it doesn't sound right, don't just assume that the vocal is going to be on the 1, because that is a very amateur move that a lot of people make, and it's so obvious again. Because as soon as you hear it, you go, yeah, the vocals are too slow, or the vocals are too fast. Just if you're a DJ as well, imagine when you're on the decks, if you hit an acapella and it's too slow, you're speeding it up. Essentially, you're pushing it in front of the downbeat. So then that means clearly your markers are wrong. So for the same thing here, you need to make sure your vocals are in the right place. Just count along and you'll be able to find it. A lot of vocals use pickup beats, which means either, they pick up on the 4. Here is the tip I spoke about at the start of the video. The one tip I can give you that I think will make any of your tracks sound indefinitely better. And it sort of relates back to changing the box sounds. Common one is in drum kits, right? We throw a 909 cymbal on the track, for example, and cool, that 909 sounds nice, but it's so bog standard, it's so out of the box. If you grab another one from Splice, it's out of the box, it's the same. Everyone else is going to have that sample. Anyone has access to that sample. So your sample is going to sound the same as everyone else's. So what you can do, you can add little detail to that one particular sound that will make it sound so much cooler and a bit different. You know, throw a delay on there, right? A really small delay, we're talking like 20 milliseconds, right? Really close. Turn the wet down a little bit and have it sit in the background of it. Use an audio effect rack if you're in Ableton. Throw a little delay on it, throw a little reverb on it. Use things like redux gates and use like distortion and bit crunching. Sit it all in the mix. I'm not saying you should have it all really loud. Sit it all back within the cymbal so you still got the original sound coming through. But every time that cymbal hits, you get like a little bit of a crunch, a little bit of a bit sound. You get a reverb, you hear a slight reverb gate on it. You've got a little echo on it, a little delay. All these little things, when you throw them together and you really produce a sound, it sounds individual, it sounds unique. Now, I'm sure someone else has probably done it as well, but it's a lot less common to pick up exactly the same sounds than if you're throwing a standard 909 on a track. Because I guarantee you, 1 million other people have thrown that same 909 on their track, and it sounds the same. I would challenge you to listen to any professional track, any big stream track on Spotify. There's a good chance you really listen to like the cymbals and the claps, and those very standard sounds. They won't sound exactly like the clap you get out of the box. They'll have something added to them. They'll have been produced. So that's the one tip I really want you to take away. For if you've done this or anything else in this video, it's that. Produce those sounds to make them sound unique. Because sounding unique is an instant way to be recognized more. If you're sounding like everybody else, if you're using the same samples as everybody else, you've got to be the best to get recognized, which is going to be indefinitely harder than creating your own sound, changing it around, and being the first person to do that. If you're the first person that's done it, you haven't got to be fantastic, because it's a new sound, it's different, people like that, and you've got to embrace that and try and find your own sound. So yeah, really produce your sounds, and that's what it's all about. If you liked this video on production, how to improve your next track, you're definitely going to want to check out this video right here. I talk about 7 free plugins that you can use that are going to give you great sounds instead of buying the paid for versions. So check that out. It's a really good video, really useful. You might find some stuff in there that's going to help you produce those sounds and sound more professional on your next track. Let's go.